to Season 3, Episode 38 of One Man's Opinion. Today I am reviewing the new musical Joan Joyce, based on the book Connecticut softball legend Joan Joyce by Tony Renzoni, book and lyrics by Keely, Baisden, Knudsen, and Lauren Salatto-Rosenay, music by Brad Ross, additional songs by Keely, Baisden, Knudsen, Lauren Salatto-Rosenay, Matthew Harrison, and David Bell, and directed by Keely, Baisden, Knudsen, running through October 22nd at Seven Angels Theater at One Plank Road, Waterbury, Connecticut. If you enjoy my reviews, I encourage you to come and visit my Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you can support my work reviewing theater in New York and across Connecticut. Joan Joyce, who died last year at the age of 81, was one of the most accomplished athletes in the world, who may be most remembered for her accomplishments in fast-pitch softball, particularly as a pitcher whose slingshot pitching style helped lead to numerous championships as a player, and then later having a successful run as a coach for college teams. She also was an accomplished professional basketball player, golfer, volleyball player, and pretty much anything else she tried. As part of this new musical, Joan Joyce succeeds in celebrating the life of the superstar athlete, but it can still use some significant work. The biggest issue of the show has to do with its premise, as the story of the musical surrounds a late interview between Joan Joyce, played by Keely, Baisden, Knudsen, and a role credited as author, presumably Tony Renzoni, played by Bundonis. What happens is that, as we're given the story of Joan Joyce, significant amounts of it are told through this interview, instead of being theatrically shown. On top of that, there is an overdependence on projections, designed by Salatto-Rosenay. It is so egregiously dependent on the projections that it's almost like watching an hour-and-a-half long montage video at times, drawing attention away from the actors who are doing their best performing the 13 songs written for the show. Speaking of the songs, the ensemble numbers come off fairly pedestrian. There could have been some broader vocal arrangements. I remember thinking at one point during a quartet that it would have been really nice if it had been done in a fugue at one point, which would have really made the song a bit more hearty and textured. The solo numbers are pretty decent as far as composition goes. The problem with the solo numbers, though, is that they are mostly anthemic, creating great emotional expressions of the characters in the moments of the scene, but don't move the plot too much. There's a time and place for songs like this, but the show shouldn't be engulfed with nothing but these kind of songs. Not disparaging the song as an example, because it's an awesome song, but imagine a musical Come From Away being mostly songs like Me in the Sky. Now, it's an awesome song from Come From Away because it's the only song in the show like it. Thus, it has significant emotional impact. With Joan Joyce, it returns to the well way too many times. Like I said, the cast does well with what they're given to work with. Kiersten Bjork, who plays teenage Joan Joyce, and Baisden Knudsen have excellent voices and do a particularly good job in their roles. The standout, for me anyway, though I can easily understand if there are some who feel he's a bit over the top, is Bundonis, who as the author. I love his character's enthusiasm and admiration for Joan Joyce. As a journalist myself, I can appreciate being starstruck when interviewing someone, and he really nails that. Maybe the best route, if I was to make an adjustment with the story, is have him kind of be a secondary or tertiary narrator and kind of progress us through time in a shorter way instead of having these conversations. Just kind of do a little setup and then let the action tell the story from there. The design is pretty simple. I would have liked to have seen a few costume changes for the ensemble. It feels like we're hanging out in Little League most of the show when we move well past that, but that may evolve with future productions. A musical about Joan Joyce could be something special. I mean, it will be for those from the area, as Joan Joyce was born and raised in Waterbury and the surrounding area, so there is going to be some inherent bias from the local audience, and that's fine. It's good to have someone to praise as a local celebrity in that way. But it needs some significant work. As much as I liked several of the performances, the use of telling the story through an interview instead of actually showing the story through textured and layered scene development drags the musical down significantly. I think the score can also use some significant development as well. If I was to recommend the musical to anyone, I'd encourage anyone with a passion for baseball and or softball to see it, as there's some mesmerizing statistics that are documented here about Joan Joyce's career, and a couple good moments, particularly the story about her striking out Ted Williams, which is probably the best moment of the show. I'd also encourage parents to take their children to see it. It's not too long, and I think it would be an important show for them to learn about feminist activism in the world of athletics. But otherwise, it still needs a lot of work. But I am only one man's opinion, so be sure to leave yours in the comments below. If you'd like to see Joan Joyce, I'll leave a link in the description below. You can support my channel by becoming a patron on my Patreon page. I'll leave a link in the description for that as well. You can also support my channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and click the notification bell to be alerted to future reviews. My next review will be Patrick Page's one-man off-Broadway show, All the Devils Are Here, How Shakespeare Invented the Villain. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at the theater.